Well, I remember one night I ended up at the ER because I was in so much pain and nothing was helping me. You know, you go to the ER, you know when you get there, you never know when you come home. You wait for hours, and then all they did was give me an IV of saline, and like $1,500 later, I was sent home.
Okay.
I was ready to go back to Italy at something not changed within, a month or two.
Yeah.
Because it was that moving back or it was dying.
My goal is to introduce you to people who do things differently. That's why today I'm on my way to Leucadia, a small beach community in Southern California. Eating the right food is a challenge for everyone. For one woman, it was a matter of life and death. When she moved from Italy to America, her health took a fast turn for the worse. Her doctors offered her pills for the pain, but nothing for a cure. How could that be? Tschou, zämä. My name is René, and for this episode, I'm excited to meet Francesca, a bold nutritional therapist in San Diego. This story is about listening to the inner voice. I'm here with Francesca. We're on the farmer's market in Leucadia. It's a really beautiful day. And let me start by asking you, your story starts in Italy.
I was born in Italy and I lived there until I was 29 years old. And I grew up in a city that's about 40 miles northeast of Rome. It's in a beautiful valley surrounded by, it's called the Holy Valley because it's surrounded by all St. Francis monasteries. And it's just magical lakes and mountains. We're close enough to the water. It's beautiful. We have farmers markets in every neighborhood, every day of the week.
Yes.
And you get up in the morning, you go to the market, you look at what looks good, you buy, you go home, you cook it. I was a very healthy child, never had any ear infection or been on antibiotics. I, ate really, really good food.
How can we imagine people eat in Italy? We have, the idea of pasta, but it's probably
there's
not.
Some of that,
yes.
But there's also much smaller portions of pasta than what you're served here in a regular restaurant.
Yeah.
So we usually have some pasta, some people every day even, but there's always protein. Growing up, I remember
Yes.
I used to eat liver twice a week. My mom would make us liver and onions. We have fish at least twice a week. And then a very traditional, my mom's in a region where lamb is very popular, so we would have lamb. Veal was always present for, iron and protein, growing food. And then vegetables, believe it or not, are considered a side. So here you will have, you'll go to get a giant salad or you'll get, whatever food, and it comes with those huge amounts of vegetables. But in Italy, they're more of a side dish, so a smaller complement to your protein. That's
Really
how I grew up. We grew up without processed foods. Again, my mom would go to the market every day. What looked good, she brought it home and she cooked it. She was working from home mom. And then I remember my grandmothers, they both had chickens. They had, the garden. I would spend the summers there with them. And,
Yes.
they would teach me what to pick when things were ripe.
Yeah.
On my father's side, we have orchards. We have olive orchards. They still produce their own olive oil and wine. And so it's really, really beautiful place to be and
Awesome.
grow up as a child in the summer.
So then you moved to the US.
Yes.
And you started to eat the, in air quotes, modern way, the
Yes.
standard American diet. Mm-hmm. Recommended, like the food pyramid we all hear and know about. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us more about that part of your journey? What happened when you came here and how it changed the way you felt?
Yeah, so I moved here in 2006 and I had a culture shock. When I moved here, I just started seeing how sick people around me were, and I was determined not to get to that point, of having a health crisis. So What did I do? I started following the pyramid guidelines.
Yes.
I remember, my mom still laughs about it, one time calling my mom, yelling at her because she fed me egg yolks, right? Because
Yes.
I all of a sudden it was egg whites, dump the yolk, the fat is bad for you, cholesterol is bad for you. Eat soy because animal protein is bad for you.
Yeah.
11 servings of grains because that's what you got to make the bulk of your calories
Yes.
with. And all of a sudden, I started losing hair. I started losing weight. I would wake up, get a glass of water. I would immediately look 6 months pregnant, extreme bloating, fatigue, hair falling out. So you get from a vibrant 29-year-old woman to like a shell of a person in the span of 3 months.
Yeah.
And I was getting sicker and sicker, and I was going from doctor to doctor trying to figure out what was wrong with me.
So you felt like your health was deteriorating, although
declined
you thought,
so fast.
I'm doing all the right
Yes,
things.
I was like, what's wrong with me? I'm
Yes.
eating the healthiest I've ever eaten.
Yeah.
I'm doing all of those things that
Yes.
I'm told to do.
Yes.
I'm buying all of those products that are supposed to be so good for me.
Yes.
And here I am, like literally not having the energy to go, through the day.
Let me take you to the point where you realize something is not right.
Mm-hmm.
And you started to go see, was it mostly doctors?
Yes, Western medicine doctors.
And what did they say?
It was all in my head. I was depressed. I was homesick. There was nothing wrong with me, so take this antidepressant. Then
Wow.
I went to another gastroenterologist. I was like, oh, it's IBS. And I'm like, can we run some testing? No, it's, there's no test to show, if you have it, if you don't have it, which is actually untrue, but for another video,
Yeah.
take this, laxative, or take this, Imodium, or whatever it is
Yeah.
that it was.
Yeah.
And it
Wow.
was never, let's look at how your life changed since you moved here, or let's look at what you're doing differently and what is taking you from being healthy, vibrant, an athlete. I was a runner my whole life into being, you cannot get out of bed in the morning kind of thing.
So let me ask you, because usually the story stops there. People feel sick, they go to the doctor, they get a medication, and for them, that's all there is. They still feel sick, but they have a medication. That's what they do. They don't investigate further.
It becomes the new normal.
Becomes the new normal.
Yeah, and that's the saddest thing ever. And I was determined for that not to be my story.
So can you elaborate, like what inside you made you want to find out what was happening?
I knew what was on hold in my head. I'm homesick. I just moved across the ocean and I left all my family, my friends, my loved one behind. Of course I missed him, but it wasn't that. I knew that there was something physically breaking. There were organs not functioning the way they used to function. And I'm like, I'm 29 years old. I'm too young to be this sick.
Yes.
Like this is physiological. This is not all in my head.
Was that the first time that you critically looked at advice that you were given, or was that the moment where you kind of thought, this can't be that?
So I've always been interested in what's called alternative medicine. I read books on Ayurvedic medicine when I was, a teenager. I used to play with homeopathy and Bach flowers. So I've always been drawn to the holistic side of medicine. But I think when I went to the third or fourth doctor, I was like, those people know nothing. Like those people are just pill pushers.
Yeah.
If you don't fix the underlying cause of what caused the disease, the condition, the sickness, it'll come back.
When you went into those doctor offices and all you got was medical advice, but not how you could identify the reason why you felt sick.
Yeah.
Like, tell me more about that frustration.
Well, I remember one night I ended up at the ER because I was in so much pain and nothing was helping me. You go to the ER, when you get there, you never know when you come home. You wait for hours, and then all they did was give me an IV of saline, and like $1,500 later, I was sent home.
Okay.
I was ready to go back to Italy had something not changed within, a month or two.
Yeah.
Because it was that moving back or it was dying.
You weren't happy with the advice that you were given. You intrinsically knew, I have to find out the root causes, which brings me to the solutions. Like,
Right.
what did you do? Who did you go to?
So I was working with this trainer, Sean Croxton. Hi, Sean. And who became later on an amazing, health figure too, at least locally here in Southern California. And I was talking to him because we're training so hard in the gym. I'm trying to, build my stamina. But then I go home and after an hour session, I have to sleep for 2 hours because that's all the energy I have for the day. And I'm frustratingly telling him about my health quest, going from doctor to doctor to doctor. He was like, have any of those doctors asked you about food? I'm like, no. Have you ever heard of Western fries or paleo diet? And I'm like, no. He asked me, what do you eat? And I'm like, I eat very well. I drink soy milk. I don't drink cow's milk anymore. I do egg whites in the morning. I don't do whole eggs anymore. So funny.
And he freaked out.
And you could see the look in his face, right? With every food that I would mention.
Yeah.
Where Sean, he was like, his jaw was dropping. He was looking at me like I'm the biggest idiot on the planet. Yes. Well, of course, I don't know, right? And I'm following advice from, the higher power out there, which is the USDA.
Yes.
And so one day he shows up at the gym with a stack of DVDs from, I think it was David Gadoff, recording the Price Pottinger Foundation, who then became one of my mentors. And I remember training with him and then sitting in a corner of the gym with my laptop, watching DVD after DVD after DVD for must have been 6 hours. That night, I went home, I cleared up the pantry, I cleared up the fridge, I went to the store, and I went back to eating what I was eating at home.
What would a typical plate look like?
Eggs, it would be lots of red meat, buying organic grass-fed from local butchers as much as I could afford, vegetables as sides, and I eliminated all the vegetables from the brassica family because they contain goitrogens that impair thyroid function. So for me, who I had developed a thyroid condition, those veggies weren't good anymore. Nothing came out of a box, nothing had a label.
I hear just basically it's real food.
Yes.
And then you eliminated some of that real food because you had a specific health issue.
Yes. So I eliminated, in the beginning, I eliminated all grains and all nuts. And then as I got better and better, I started reintroducing them, but in a traditionally fermented way. So I would soak my grains, I would soak and sprout my nuts, or I would buy sprouted bread or sourdough, which is another good way of making the nutrients bioavailable and reducing phytates and other anti-nutrients that are present in the grains and pulses. Yeah. And then I'm at a point in which I can't eat any gluten in this country. It just doesn't agree with me. But I go home, I can eat my body weight in whatever I want, and it doesn't cause any problems.
That's really interesting. So what I take from you is start out by choosing real foods over processed foods.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't stop there.
Right.
So depending on how far down the lane of sickness you are, you even have to be careful what you pick within the real food category.
Yeah, absolutely.
And kind of be smart about that.
Yes. My advice is always to work with a practitioner who knows how the body works and can help bring in certain things to help clear, systems and organs faster. But, for someone who doesn't know where to start or,
That's my takeaway. It sounds like if there are people out there who try things and they don't get the results they think they should get, go to someone who knows what he or she's doing to help with that
guide
dilemma.
You, right? Because the thing is that the issue with our culture is that you walk in a bookstore, there's hundreds of thousands of diet books. You go to a health food store, there's hundreds of thousands of supplements. Yet we're sicker than ever, and what works for one person doesn't work for the other because we're all biochemically different, genetically different, and then of course our unique conditions dictate so that what works for you may not work for me because, hey, I got the thyroid issue, so my fat level shouldn't be as high as someone who has an estrogen imbalance.
I'm curious, what are the biggest misconceptions in regards to health?
Saturated fatty acids. So the Journal of the American College of Cardiologists in 2020 published a statement saying that we were told all wrong. Saturated fatty acid consumption does not contribute to cardiovascular disease. It's actually preventative for stroke, and there is no need to limit its consumption. So this is the most prestigious, of journals, American Academy of Cardiologists. Yet you go to the doctor and you're still being put on statins and told to lay off the red meat because of the saturated fatty acids content. Exactly. And then the other big trend that fats in general, like the polyunsaturated fatty acids that are used in every commercial box product, whether it's organic or conventional, those are rancid man-made oils that are, refined with hexane, which is a derivative of petroleum. They are the worst thing that you can do for your health. Worse than, eating conventional everything.
So those would be the cottonseed oils, the
canola
oils,
oil, absolutely, yes. The best fats for us are saturated fatty acids because they're highly stable.
So when I'm in a store, what do I buy?
So you buy real butter from grass-fed cows, cold-pressed, not cold-processed, cold-pressed olive oil, cold-pressed avocado oil. The tropical oils like coconut and palm, they're good if they're also cold-pressed and, non-genetically modified.
We had saturated fats are good. Most plant and seed oils are bad. Do you have another misconception that's out there?
Oh my God. Don't eat mock protein. If you want to be a healthy vegan or vegetarian, I would recommend stay away from those products.
Plant-based
Frankenfoods, yes, that are extremely processed. They're high in rancid oils. And when you look at, I cannot do names because I probably would be sued, but if you look at some of the commercial vegan protein substitutes and you look at a bag of dog kibble, they have almost exactly the same ingredients. So if you want to be a healthy vegan or a healthy vegetarian, eat from plants that grow on the soil, not food that comes from a plant, as in a factory.
Very easy to remember.
So the least the processed foods, the better you're off. And in my line of work, I see people who started those diets as healing diets, but then they steered away from the real food and they started eating all this processed food, trying to make up for their protein. They got very sick. Yeah, stay away from the processed foods as much as you can.
It doesn't seem that difficult.
Well, it can be difficult if you've never had it before, if you've never eaten that way before. I do see people in my practice who were raised on, box cereal and TB frozen dinners, and they have no idea how to go to the store.
Okay.
So one of the things that I added in my practice was grocery store tour, farmer's market tour, so I can teach them how to shop and how to put ingredients together so that they can create a good nourishing meal that's balanced and will give them all the nutrition that they need.
Awesome. Would you say, Francesca, that you found your passion through your initial ailments and pain? Is that safe to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I found a passion when I was able to heal myself after, seeing countless of doctors who couldn't help me. I thought that I had something that I could give to others. And that what makes me the happiest. One thing I want my clients always to remember is we can fix anything. If you go back to eating or living your life the way you did when you get sick, any disease will come back. You can't go back to your old habits and expect a different result. We can strengthen the body so that you can sometimes have some, deviations from your regular diet. But, the foundations of health need to be solid so that you can live a happy, healthy, vibrant life.
They need to be respected.
Yes, absolutely.
When someone is out there and watching this and has a passion for something, has a fire inside, but maybe not the courage to go after that passion, do you have any advice or tips for that person?
There's no such day as today, to make a step towards something new. I went back to school at 44. During the pandemic, I'm like, I'm going to take another master's degree. And probably one of the best things I ever did for my brain in that time was to go back to school and have a focus and have a project. There's never the perfect time to do anything. Life will always come in the way. You will always have something that tells you, don't do this. because change is scary. And I'm here to tell you, do it. Do it now. Today doesn't come back. Tomorrow's not promised. So take the leap.
But then there's also these people who don't know what their passion is.
Right.
What can we tell those people? Maybe they're unhappy, but just telling them go after their dream leads to nothing because they don't have a dream.
Yeah, we tend to get stuck into our daily life and we forget what brings us joy. So my question is, what do you read? What do you do in your free time? What are the things that bring you joy? And is there a way to make that into a career? Ask your friends. When they look at you, what is that they see? What's the fire that they see within you? Sometimes the answer is right there and we just don't know it. And if it isn't right there, then do stuff. Do different stuff. Try different things. You might find your passion that way.
Say yes to new things more often and
absolutely.
You might find your passion.
Yes, get off the couch, turn off your phone and go do stuff. And by doing, that's how you learn what you like.
I have one last question for you, Francesca. What's your advice for living a happy life?
Oh gosh, enjoy the moments. You gotta enjoy the journey. That's where happiness is.
My takeaway is don't let anyone talk you into believing advice if it doesn't feel right to you. Now I'm curious, regarding the food you eat, what changes have you made that made a difference? Let me know in the comments. People like Francesca inspire us to look at things differently. Help others to find her story and hit like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You never know what you might kick off. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Tschou.
Grazie a tutti. Ciao.